Welcome to Toby on Fitness Tech. This is another video about the Speediance, and specifically I'm going to be talking about spotter modes today. And this is because of a couple different things that happened. The first one was someone was mentioning that they do drop sets, and the way they do drop sets in particular is they go in and they customize the weight, and then they specify as they're doing the set, they turn the dial on the ring to get the specific weight that they want. And then they bought the new Bluetooth handles. And the Bluetooth handles obviously do not have the ability to turn the weight by hand. They just turn on and off. And so they were very disappointed in them because they can no longer do the drop sets that they do. And that inspired me to look at the spotter modes in particular, and there's spotter mode 1 and then there's spotter mode 2. And they interact differently, and realize this is the second time I'm shooting this video. I actually, when I do my workouts, have spotter modes turned off. So I don't use them in my day-to-day workouts, but in this video, I'm going to show you what these spotter modes do and whether spotter mode 2 in particular can be used for drop sets. And spoiler, because I've done this once before, yes, it can. I don't do drop sets in my day-to-day workouts, so I don't ever plan on doing this again. And I'm really sore from the first time I went to shoot this video last night, full disclosure, because drop sets are not something in my program, and drop sets were actually something that Tonal introduced about 6-9 months ago, something like it, 6 months ago maybe, when they launched the Tonal 2. And so I had drop sets for a little bit of time on the Tonal before moving over to Speediance. And I tried them out and realized they're just not for me. They have a massive fatigue cost and caused me to be less inspired to do the workouts. And I think that's really important. They might give you a 5 to 10% hypertrophy gain, but if it's causing you to not want to do your workout, then it's not a net benefit to you. Sometimes you've got to make choices of optimal training versus optimizing for what you enjoy in your training. And so moving drop sets out for me as a general concept of not doing them was actually something that, I made the decision pretty early on whenever it came to Tonal that they are too much of a struggle for me to want to do the workout with them in. And you'll see it whenever I go to actually do the drop set on the machine. You'll see why. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before I got into the drop sets themselves is the safety features on the machines. And this is because I also got into a little bit of a debate online with someone who said that free weights are safer. And then I realized that they had put so many caveats around their free weights that in their scenario, sure, free weights are safer. And because I mentioned specifically how I hurt myself with free weights, one of the ways that I hurt myself at one point in time and realized that, yes, this is dumb, and yes, you should not do this, but I do all of my workouts with no spotter, right? So spotter mode 1 and spotter mode 2 for this machine is a spotter. And the way I train in general, I don't need the spotter modes on the machine, and I'll explain that when I go to actually do some of this on the machine, why I don't need the spotter modes in general with the way I work out. But this person was arguing that the free weights are safer. And then whenever I said, oh yeah, the way I hurt myself, I didn't hurt myself on this one, but thankfully I destroyed a bar and I destroyed one of the, like the hooks that were on my, so these are the ones for the Speediance, but when you have a power rack, you have a similar thing that slides into the rack and snaps in place. I forget the name on these things, but I actually destroyed this on the power rack and had to replace it. So what happened is I had 350 pounds on my back, and I was doing like quarter squats with the weight because it was more about getting used to having that kind of weight on your back and less about the actual squats. but that is very, very fatiguing just to carry around that weight. I'm about 200 pounds at the time. I was probably 220, 230, so I was a little bigger and subsequently a little bit stronger in the ability to carry weight, not necessarily in my ability to move weight, but in my ability to carry weight. And I had 350 pounds, no squatter, or no spotter, no one around, in fact. So it's literally just me on a weekend by myself in my basement with 350 pounds on my back. What could ever go wrong, right? Not saying I always make the smartest decisions with free weights. Obviously I didn't. But what ended up happening is I went to re-rack the weight, and my rack was up like about at this R0 point. So I'd have to like kind of like lean forward and push in. And when I did that, I missed the left pin, and I missed it by just enough that I clipped the pin, and then it got too much for me to handle. And thankfully I'm strong enough and quick enough that I pushed the weight forward and backed up. And what happened is I also have safety catches, and the safety catch caught the weight, but the force of 350 pounds coming down snapped the bar, because I was using like cheapish bars, right? Not really bars that could handle like 500, 600 pounds, but they can't handle the force of it. It snapped, hitting that, and it actually broke the catch over here, it didn't break the one down here, but it broke the bar itself and that. And thankfully my neck was nowhere near it. But what I'm getting at here is, my personal opinion is these machines are way, way safer than ever lifting with no spotter. And this person had hurt themselves squatting. The reason why I bring up squatting in particular is this person hurt themselves squatting. And what they were doing is they were max weight squatting. So they had it on their back, right? They were max weight squatting. One, they didn't even have the ring, or they didn't have any way to turn it off. So you see I just turned on the ring. They had no way of turning this thing off. They had it on their back. They were going up and down with the max weight. And then the machine did not turn off. I had no idea why the machine didn't turn off, but they ended their set and the machine didn't turn off. Now there's a bar tilt mode that would turn it off, and they had to tilt very, very far, and they actually torqued, something in their side as they were doing that. Because again, at the max weight, it can do that. But realize that they only had this massive of a problem. One, they're facing like this direction, they're facing the camera, and all of the videos, and this confused my wife, all of the videos for how to do these exercises are facing this direction, right? For some lifts that makes sense where you're pulling away from the machine. So I'm pulling away from the machine. Of course it makes sense for me to be this direction. There's no other way to do those motions. But anything like a back squat and the move that I'm gonna do today, these moves, when you're actually doing them, face the machine. And why? Because you have a giant button to be able to click and turn the weight off anytime you need to. The other thing that, obviously the button itself can turn off the weight, right? Which I have no idea what happened in their scenario, because they didn't even mention. I'm assuming they didn't have the ring with a ring clip on it at all. So they had no ability to turn it off that way. And they were facing this direction. So this could have been easily avoided by facing this direction. And there's no reason to face that direction on a back squat. The reason why they do it in the video is they're using a one camera shoot. And that's what I realized, because I was trying to figure out why they show everything facing away from the machine when they can, and what Tonal did. Well, Tonal did a 3-camera shoot when they were shooting all of their videos. And so in that 3-camera shoot, they would cut to behind, in front, and all different angles, so that you can see the person in like a 3D view as they're doing the movement. And you're thinking, oh, well, then why doesn't Speediance do that? I could tell you why Speediance doesn't do that, because Tonal built a new studio in New York for millions and millions of dollars and raised everyone's membership membership price because they ran out of money because they built that new studio. So realize that their basically required membership to use the device, they raised because they built a new studio, and their studios cost millions of dollars. And it's just an expense that is not necessary, because all you do is you take, when they're facing this direction, if you can face the machine, face the machine. One other safety thing that I realized, that when the person talked to me online, that my response was the correct response, and I wish this person had talked to me before doing this, because yes, this would get you hurt. So the last one, my argument is that free weights are not safer. This person is setting up this illogical argument of having 2 spotters versus no spotter, and then they didn't have spotter modes turned on the machine. They didn't have the ring clip here. They were facing away from the, like, they did a lot of things wrong. This one, they did one thing wrong, but in a way that I could see my wife doing, or I could see many people doing, so I wanted to cover it before I actually showed you the attempt at doing drop sets on the machine. So this one, I think, is actually a very, very important topic of how do we attach things into the machine. And let me make sure you can see my attachment points. So you can't quite see them whenever they're on the ground. So let me get you, I will actually put the bench over here, and I'll show you it on the bench, because then you'll be able to see it. And you'll get to see how I actually attach things on the bench. You notice right now I'm bending over in front of the machine, and that is for a very specific reason. I'm not even on the lifting screen right now. So right now my machine is not even on the lifting screen, and I am bending over in front of the machine. And anytime I'm touching this machine and touching these attachments, I am bringing myself to the attachment and not bringing the attachment to me. And that's where this person, got injured, and I can see what happened, and I can tell them exactly what happened. And it could happen to you if you do what they did. So here's what happened. So, and the only time this could ever happen is if you have the bench, if you're doing what I'm about to tell you. And even with the bench, you'll see what I do. So what they ended up doing, and I get nervous even doing this, is they brought the attachment up, and what they ended up doing with this attachment is they brought the attachment up to them and then started attaching their bar. And by the way, last time I was on the actual lifting screen whenever I did this, and I was attaching it to the bar, and I accidentally bumped this button, which kicked the weight on. Thankfully, I was demoing not this version of it, but I was demoing the version that I actually do, where I'm down with it down in its attachment spot. So even if I'm doing this with the actual bar, what I'm going to do is I'm putting the bar here, I'm putting my knee on the bar, then I'm bringing this up and I'm clipping it in. Okay? So what I'm going to do is knees on the bar and I'm clipping it in. And then I go to the other side, I hold here, I slide this over, right? And then I clip in the other side. Why am I being so cautious about this, right? And why am I not just lifting everything up to me as I'm doing it? Well, the answer to that is what happened to this person. So what ended up happening to them is they had their bar up here. They were on their lifting screen, right? So bar's up here. They're on their lifting screen. They went, picked this thing up, reached down here, had it right in front of their face, actually probably down here, hit this. See where that button is? Like, you see where this button is? And it's going to be even worse if it's on your finger. My button is actually right where my knee is. If I accidentally hit this button and I accidentally clip this in at the same time, this thing's coming up and smacking me in the face. which is going to do some serious damage if I have it at 260 pounds. So that's a thing to be cautious of, and I could see someone doing that, but that's why anytime I do attachments, I bring myself to the machine and not the machine to me. So I'm about to do this workout, so custom, we're going to do a shoulder press workout. And when I'm about to do this workout, because I have to attach it back, I have to attach my bar back in, I am going to kneel down, bring the attachment the whole way to the bar, and clip it in. And you can see it just turned itself on because I hit the button, right? Thankfully, I'm not even on the lift screen yet. But that's how this is getting done. Same with the handles. Even though there's less danger with the handles smacking you, same idea. I bring myself down and attach. So I'm squatting down and I'm doing it that way. I know it sounds overly cautious, but whenever I saw that post of someone who smacked themselves in the face, I was thinking about why that's never happened to me, because I've usually made every dumb mistake you can make with any kind of lifting apparatus. And I realized, oh, no. I bring myself to the machine. And when I'm not bringing myself to the machine, I try to secure the barbell as much as possible, realizing that I could accidentally turn on that weight. And that is something that you have to be cognizant of, especially with this ring being so sensitive. So now let's get into drop sets, right? This is kind of the fun part for me, right? So at least the concept behind it. So this person was doing drop sets by taking this ring. So they were setting a start weight. They take the ring and they set the dials on this ring as they're going through. So what's going to end up happening is I have this ring, right? And then I'm dialing the weight back and forth to adjust the, so in this case, it'd be shoulder presses. And as I'm doing the shoulder presses, whenever I feel like I'm reaching failure, I start adjusting this ring. I think this is a massively inferior way of doing this lift, to be blunt, than to have the machine do it for you. Tonal had an algorithm to it, and Speediance also has an algorithm to it with spotter mode 2. So, by the way, I still keep my ring clipped to the thing, to the barbell. And the reason why I'm keeping this ring clipped to this barbell, even though, I don't necessarily have to use it, I just like the ability to turn off the weight with as many modes as possible. That's where the other user online that was squatting at max weight on the machine wasn't giving themselves as many options to turn off the weight as possible. I want to have every option to turn off the weight. I want to have bar tilt mode. I want to have the ability to press the button, and I want always the ability to press the button on the screen. And actually, when I do these drop sets, the first time I went to do them, I faced the camera so that you'd get a better view. And for something like a drop set, I really want to be looking at the screen. I just want to be able to look at it to see whenever it's lowering the weight. So realize this time I'm going to do it, I'm going to be facing the screen the whole time. And that is so that I can actually see the weight drop in real time when I'm using spotter mode 2. Okay? That's why I'm actually facing the screen, is so that spotter mode 2 will give me that, will give me what I want. So right now, if I go in here and go edit on this, right now I have it all set up to do the drop sets, but I wanted to show you one that's not set up to do the drop sets and is set up to do my normal workout. So this curl workout, these are just curls. What's happening here is I have the weight set to 20 and I have the training set to 13, and then the next set I have it set to 15 and 13. That means I've got 13 reps, so I'm doing 13 reps the whole time, and I'm doing the weight of 15 reps for my 1 rep max on the working set, and 20 for the warm-up set, right? So 20 for the warm-up set. It's 20 and 13 for my warm-up and 15 and 13 for my working set. I have a bunch of my workouts actually moved over from the Tonal now, and this is working flawlessly for me. And I really like it, actually. It's just as good as what the Tonal had with its warm-up sets and working sets. It's just as good. But when we go in here and go to do a drop set, what do I have to do here? So drop sets are very different. And what if I'm going to still use the stamina setting? No, you can use any setting to do drop sets. It really doesn't matter. It's just easier with stamina because it gives you the highest amount of reps as your maximum reps. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting it to 15 and I'm setting the reps to 20. That's always going to cause me to fail, especially on shoulder press, which is not my favorite exercise. I was actually dreading reshooting this video because I don't like shoulder pressing. And it's one of the exercises before that when I was using free weights, I think was most likely to injure me because I would try to push more weight than I should on this particular exercise and lead to kind of shoulder impingements that then would, go and affect me in jiu-jitsu and have a lasting effect on me. So in this scenario, I'm doing shoulder presses because it's an exercise that I don't like, and it's 15 and 20. So it's kind of flipped from the way I normally do it, which is 20 and 15. It's actually the opposite way. It's the opposite of my warm-up sets. And the goal is to create a guaranteed failure scenario, which this will, because there's no way I can do that. So that was the objective, create a guaranteed failure scenario and then let the machine take over when that happens. Okay? So what I'm gonna do is show you what this looks like in actual real time. And show you with spotter mode 2, show you with spotter mode 1, but we're not going to go very far in spotter mode 1, and I will show you why when we get there. So we go here, we go back, we go start, and now we're getting here. And when I first shot the video, I shot it this way, but it's so much easier if I can see the screen. And I'll explain that while I'm going through and doing this. So we're here, bringing the weight up. And my ring's connected. And now my weight's on. Now 1, see he's showing the movement away from the machine, whereas I'm going towards the machine. There's no technical difference. The machine is fine with this, right? And I just now realized I have the spotter mode turned off. So by default, the spotter mode is turned off. And I got 5 reps, right? One of the nice things about this machine is I can just turn the weight off. Like you saw that. I'm in the middle of a workout, I just turned the weight off. So that person who was max weight squatting didn't have a scenario where they could just hit the button either. So the machine didn't turn off the weights and they weren't in range of the button. And if this button had failed me, I could have just tapped the screen. That's the beauty of this. I can tap the screen. I have multiple methods of getting this back there. And by the way, worst case scenario, if I was squatting, I would drop this thing. I'm not going to do it because now I'm out of the 30 days, but I would just drop this thing and let it break if it breaks. I'm not going to risk injury to not break this machine. Like just fundamentally, I don't want to be injured, and I would much rather have to deal with a repair call to Speediance to try to fix, something that I broke on the attachments in general. So go in here and I turn assist 2 on. So now I've got assist 2 on. I'm at 5 reps already, and let's go from here, okay? Okay, it's already getting heavy for me. So now I'm gonna hold it here. Now it took it down to 90 pounds. And you can see it's bringing it back down to 90 pounds. Well, you can't see because I'm in front of it, but it's bringing it back down to 90 pounds each time. Now I brought it down even further. Now it's down to 58 pounds. and this is a lot lighter for me. So what happens is as I'm holding the weight, it brings it down. So if I go here, it's holding it at 50, it's bringing it even lower to allow me to do these reps. Okay, so what's happening is each time and then it's resetting it to that 50 something. So what's happening here is it's creating a true drop set. And last time I did it at maximum intensity. This time I did it about 50 to 70% of what I'm capable of. I learned from the last one that doing this at maximum intensity in a demo makes it so that I can't talk at all after doing it, which is suboptimal. And you'll see that with the Speediance trainers. If you look at what he's doing, can I actually movement demo? Yes. So if you look at him, he's lifting 7 pounds, right? Why is he lifting 7 pounds? So he can talk while he's doing it. So realize he's facing the wrong direction. He's lifting a tiny weight. No offense to him. And he's clearly jacked. He can lift more than 7 pounds. But he's doing all of that. And by the way, I think Tonal, what they do with their instructors is instead of doing this, they have customized, specialized machines that show weights that they're not actually lifting. So my theory is, again, Tonal spent more money on production than, I don't know, building something like an adjustable bench or a bunch of amazing things like even this ring clip for the ring, and the barbell that actually feels like a real barbell. Like, Tonal didn't do any of that stuff. I mean, they didn't give us an adjustable bench after all these years. It's crazy. You know, they use the cheapest Amazon Basics bench. It's mind-boggling to me. But the Speediance guys are spending less money on production, more money on giving us the workouts we want, giving us the exercises we want, and adding more features to this machine, which is just awesome to me. I mean, that's where I want the money to be spent. And also not, having a membership that is forcibly paid. So that's what this Assist 2 does. Assist 2 will allow you to create drop sets. And it can do other things than just drop sets. You could use it as a spotter mode in general for all of your exercises. But what it's going to do is it's going to set your next rep to the weight setting of the prior rep. Okay, so if the spotter kicks in, takes you down to 90, say I was at 106, then it took me down to 90, and then my next rep is going to start at 90, and I'm going to continue from there until I can't continue. Then I'm going to hold it, and the longer I hold it, the more it pulls the weight down. So I pulled it down to almost 50, and then I lifted some more, and then I held it for a little bit longer, brought it down into the 40s, and I lifted some more. So that's what it's doing. It's actually progressively dropping you down. I don't like drop sets, and I explained it to the person online. Why do I not like these things outside of the fatigue factor, the frustration around them, like in general? I feel like you're failing when it drops the weight. So like that mental anguish of it dropping the weight and you feeling like you're failing during the set, which is never when you want to feel like you're failing. Just from my mental state. But the other reason why I don't like it is you can't track it. You couldn't track it on Tonal. So you can't track it on here. And I checked the log at the end of the workout, and you'll see it when the log comes up. You can't track when the drops happened, which is one of the biggest factors of how successful your set was. You just have the total volume. So you don't know if you made it 7 reps or 10 reps before it dropped without going in and actually writing that down. And by the way, that's the same if you use the ring and you spun the ring. You don't know when the drops happen unless you were writing them down. And if you have time to write them down, then you're not doing a drop set anymore because you're taking so much time writing things down during the set. You're doing multiple sets with limited rest. That's what you're doing if you're writing it all down. So there isn't really there isn't as much tracking of the drop sets, and that was the case on Tonal too. That was the critique of Tonal when they came out with drop sets, is it just gives you the total volume for the set, which is not helpful. It's not as useful as giving you the individual rep amounts and what the weight was set to in each rep. which would be time consuming to program. And I get why neither company did it, but realize if you were going to use drop sets effectively, that's the data you need. And you usually don't have it. You might have it with free weights, but that's because someone else is writing it down. Again, to this person that was critiquing me for saying that this thing's safer than free weights. Yes, if I have a spotter who's writing everything down or a personal trainer who's writing everything down, free weights are safer. I used to have a personal trainer. I was gaining strength at the highest rate possible, but it A, cost a small fortune, and B, got shut down with the pandemic that happened. So I don't want to use the words because apparently they're still banned on YouTube after all these years. But when that pandemic happened, my gym got shut down and I was left to build out my own home gym, which I'd already started building, but I never used. And I just continued to build out that home gym. And then I started hurting myself over and over again because without that person watching my form, checking off the amount that I should be doing, telling me the amount of weight that I should be doing, I progressed too far, too fast, and in ways that are unsafe, not doing the accessory movements that they forced me to do. There was a mountain of errors that I was making, and it is on me, right? It was not the free weights, it was me, but this is far safer because it progresses the weights for me. And with the way I'm doing these custom workouts, it progresses them in a way that is very slow and deliberate, where I'm doing an extra rep to get the new PR that then goes back in and resets my warm-up weights and sets my working set weights. So it's a slower progression, but it's a progression that's impactful and meaningful, and over time obviously has led to the physique I have today, or helped lead to the physique I have today. So now we're going to go into spotter mode 1. And this is a part of the demo that I'm the most concerned with. So spotter mode 1, and I'll tell you why I'm so concerned with it, because it did not behave how I expected it to. And I will show you real quickly. I'm still fatigued from the last set a little bit, but I will show you what it does, and then we'll get into the use cases for this. Okay, so I'm done with that. I only got 10 of the 20 reps. And what spotter mode 1 is doing is it's just not progressing the weights down nearly at the speed of spotter mode 2. And it's not using that hold as a time period for it to actually just continue adjusting it down. It only adjusts it down one increment at a time and then holds that increment and won't let itself adjust even further down. So what that means is a massively more fatiguing exercise. And I would say if you're going to use spotter mode 1, I don't even know. I don't see a use case for it, to be honest with you. And I didn't see a use case for it when I did this demo the first time. And that's because it won't stagger down the weight as far as you would want it to. It's not giving you the kind of drops that you would expect for a drop set, for sure. Like it will not give you drop set style dropping. And it won't even be quite the safety feature that mode 2 will be. Let me try one more thing with it, just out of curiosity. What I'm gonna try to do is get to absolute failure and see if it'll turn off the weight for me. So I'm just curious, will this actually turn the weight off? So I go up. No, not only will it not turn the weight off, wouldn't even lower the weight for me there. So if I go back to assist 2 for these last couple reps, watch the difference. That wouldn't even lower the weight for me. So not only did it not turn the weight off, it did not lower the weight in any way because it had determined I hadn't done enough reps for it to lower the weight, is my theory. Which means as a spotter, it's not the spotter you'd want to use. This spotter mode assist 2, watch how this works. So I'll guide you through it whenever it's going up. So I'm here, I do a rep. Oh, I can't do another rep. It starts pulling it down, pulled it down to 87. I get 2 reps, can't do another rep. I'm struggling, right? Boom, it pulled it down to 59. And let's just say I'm at 19 and I can't do another rep altogether. I'm stuck here. I'm pinned. It's going down to 30, it's going down to 20, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down to 16, it's going down to the minimum weight possible. That's the safety feature you want. Even if you're using it as a safety feature, you want spotter mode 2. Fundamentally, that is the spotter mode you're gonna want. Spotter mode 1, I would not use as a safety feature, and I would not use it for drop sets. So I would personally recommend spotter mode 2 for everything. If you're gonna turn on the spotter, don't waste your time with 1. I can't see of a use case. If someone knows one, let me know. But I would not be using spotter mode 1 as a spotter, that's for sure. Because it's not turning off the weight at all for me. Which I would have expected whenever I held the bar for a period of time. I would have expected spotter mode 1 to turn it off and kill it, which is not what it did. It just held it at the max weight. So, in my opinion, if you're going to use spotter modes on this device, assist 2. And if you want to do drop sets, assist 2 is the way to go. So, that would be this. Let me finish out this one last rep so that I can show you what happens after this. So I go back in, I do my final rep, and then it turned off the weight automatically for me. Mine pauses before it turns off the weight, and that's because of one of the other settings that's set that I recommend everyone use. So we go in, we end this workout, end the workout, and we're in here. Shows us our max weight. See, it shows that I did 20 of 20 at 1,777 pounds. The next set I did 20 of 20 at 1,968 pounds. Why is that? Well, that was because of the difference between spotter 1 and spotter 2. My first set, I had the spotter mode kick on and give me lower weights throughout the set. That way I could talk to you guys. And the second one, spotter mode 1 was flat out not kicking on. And then when it did kick on, it only lowered it by 10, not giving me enough spotter to even be able to continue the conversation with you. So in terms of safety and efficacy, if you're going to use spotter modes and you're going to rely on it to turn off the weights for you, spotter mode 2 is the way to go. If you want the maximum safety out of this machine, most likely spotter mode 2 plus, again, facing the machine. Whenever you're doing any exercise that you can face the machine, there are, again, a set of workouts and exercises you can't face the machine, but anything where you see the person looking this direction, they're looking this direction for the camera. If they're doing any kind of overhead press or anything like that, squats, overhead presses, they're facing the camera so that it's easier to see what they're doing. And even in my demo, I was not comfortable doing these drop sets facing the camera a second time. That's my level of paranoia around the safety of these things. I want the ability to hit that button on the screen if something goes wrong. So even though spotter mode 2 worked flawlessly for me, spotter mode 1 did not in my first demo and had me pretty concerned. And in the second demo, I explored it a little bit more, has me even more concerned with the second exploration of it. I really feel like if you're going to use a spotter mode 2 is the way to go, because it gives you that drop set style, and it will turn the weight to 0 or to minimum weight, which is 16 pounds, which is near 0 if it needs to. So if you hold the bar for any length of time, it will stop whenever it's at its lowest weight, which is what I would expect from a spotter. Again, spotter mode 1, it just held it at the maximum weight and decided it was not going to kick on at all. That's my conclusion on the spotter modes. I think it's pretty fascinating. And one thing from the beginning of the video, again, I would strongly recommend, if you have these attachments, if you're attaching something into one of these, don't do this. Don't bring it up to you and then clip whatever it is in. Even with these handles, right? I don't ever do this. And I know this should be relatively safe, but I don't want this handle whipping me in the face either. And that could happen if I hit this button while this is on and this thing comes up and smacks me in the face. Like, that could happen. And it's going to snap it out of my hand if I'm lifting something really heavy. If I'm doing something like a bench press, like, this is going to snap this out of my hand and rip up my fingers. It's never a good idea. I don't understand why someone thought it was a good idea, but I think 5-10 years ago, when I was injuring myself, I would have been dumb enough to do the same thing. No offense to that person, but I would have probably done the same thing, where I picked it up and brought it to me instead of letting it on the ground and squatting down. Probably 10 years of doing jiu-jitsu and knowing that it's very much safer when someone's planted on the ground and you're controlling their hips. It's the same concept here, where I have the attachment planted on the ground. There's no cable tension anywhere, and I'm placing it in the attachment while it's there. It can no longer hit me in the face. I know it's a little thing and it seems like it would be obvious, but that wasn't obvious to someone on the internet, and they got smacked in the face with a barbell. And that didn't have to happen, because even when I'm attaching this barbell, I'm doing the same thing, where I'm attaching it here directly to the cable and the other side is already attached. So I'm moving the barbell to the cable, not the cable to the barbell. When I have the bench, I have it affixed as best as I can with my hand and with my knee sometimes, depending on the situation. That was my video for today. I wanted to go over spotter. I wanted to go over safety. So it's kind of like the spotter modes, the safety. I figured these things are very important and they're not something really discussed. And I actually didn't know the difference between the spotter modes until I tried this last night. And I found out that they are wildly different. I knew spotter mode 2 was designed for drop sets, or in theory for drop sets, because it would keep the progressive weight lower. What I didn't know is spotter 1 does progress the weight lower, but it just won't progress it at a rate that you would want it to for safety. And it refused to progress the weight lower in certain circumstances. And it will not drop the weight to 0 while you're just holding the bar. It makes you turn it off. So it's not actually the kind of spotter I would want to use in the scenarios that I'm running into. I would, if I'm going to turn on a spotter, I would turn on spotter mode 2 across the board. I'm not going to turn them on for my workouts, and that's because of the way I progressively overload. So if we go into my curls workout, first of all, everything has a warm-up before I get started. So if I'm not feeling great that day, I'll do all my warm-ups. If we go into actually one of my workouts, so I have all of these warm-ups. I'm doing a warm-up of every exercise I'm about to do. And that means a bunch of warm-ups in a row. And so I'm doing all of these warm-ups, and then I get into my true training sets. All the warm-ups are actually calculated by the machine, and then I get into my working sets after that. So if I'm not feeling great that day, I'll do all those warm-ups and then I'll call it there. So I'm getting like 7,000 to 10,000 pounds of lifting from just those warm-ups, and then I'm calling the workout and saying, nope, we're not gonna work out today. Something doesn't feel quite right. I'm not feeling like I'm feeling particularly weak, or I have like a nagging, injury, like not an injury, but like, like something's nagging me, like my shoulder, my elbow, something's bothering me in particular. I'll just call it and start back up the next day. Then whenever I'm into my working sets, everything is set up so that it's 13 and 15. And what that would mean, if we go down here to one of these, so what that would mean is it's 15, 13, right? So what that means is I have to hit 15 reps, and I'm setting it to 13 reps. So I'm setting it 2 away from failure. So everything's, and before with the tonal, it was 1 away from failure. So I was setting everything to be away from failure. And what that means, if I want to progressively overload and gain and have all of this recalculate next time I come into a slightly higher weight, I have to hit 16 reps. So this keeps me safe because I'm not progressively overloading every workout. I'm not manually setting the weights for everything. And I know I did get into a little bit of a debate with one of the admins about manually setting weights, and they manually set weights for everything, and then they still progressively overload, and they go in and add weight. By the way, my response would be, if I had to do that, the machine would get returned and I would have switched back to the tonal. Full disclosure, like I would have returned the first Speediance that I got and went back to the tonal had I seen that I wouldn't be able to use this for progressive overloading in a way that's automatic. And I think, A, if you have time to do that, B, if you have the cognition to go in and up your warm-ups and your working weights when you're progressively overloading. So they have to go back into their custom workouts, enter in the new weights. If you have time and you have the capability and you want the granular control that they desire over every single movement, over every single exercise, then I do agree with them that that would be a way to go. One thing I found with the machine that's very simple is if I want it to progressively, instead of progressively overload, progressively detract, right? This machine is actually very easy to get it to lower the weights for you moving forward. And all you have to do there is adjust the weight down manually and then lift the amount of reps. So in this case, I'm lifting 13 reps. If I adjust the weight on one of my working sets down, I never adjust the weight on my warm-up sets unless something has gone really wrong. And by the way, if you adjust the weight on a warm-up, because I did have to do it once where it set my weights at something crazy high because it was the first time I was doing the exercise. So first time that you're doing the exercise, it's guessing at the weight based upon your strength score calculated from the strength assessment. Right? I'm saying strength score because that was a number that Tonal showed. They don't show that score here, but I'm assuming they're building something in the background that is similar to a strength score and then applying that to each exercise before you go in and do an exercise. Tonal was showing that number and people got all up in arms about their number. And when it would go down and when it would go up, I never cared about the number. Obviously, I was one of the top ones on the platform, top 1%, which is not shocking, but it's kind of cool to see it and see that you're top 1% because I didn't start at top 1%. I started like everyone else at like 70, 80%. Well, like everyone else who's 6 foot tall, 200 plus pounds, I should say. Not everyone else, but like everyone who's as big as me and has been grappling for almost 9 years now, something like that. So like, yes, of course I'm going to have a top 50 percentile score just coming onto the machine, but to get the whole way up to 99 percentile was amazing, right? I thought that was really, really cool, especially because I don't do the big three. So very rarely do I do those lifts. I don't do squat, deadlift, and well, I do bench, but I usually bench with the handles when I'm benching. So that limits the strength a little bit because it's a little bit of a different range of motion, and I prefer it for my joints and connective tissue. It feels a little better to lift with the handles instead of the barbell on that particular movement for me. And that's a truly individual thing. But this methodology of training, I wouldn't say is superior to their custom workout and entering everything by hand, but just realize that's a lot of tracking. I don't want to have to think about it. I want to walk up to the machine. I want to hit that start button. So what actually happens when I go to do one of these workouts, I want to exit without saving because I don't want to actually touch my workout. But I go up to it, I hit custom, I hit start, and I just start lifting. And I don't have to think about anything else until I'm done with the workout, other than just trying to move the weight for the amount of reps that I have. One of the other things that I saw someone really focusing on is there's power meters that are on the screen. I do care about those, but I don't care about them. I care more about the progression of the weights and the max. So if I'm looking at this, the 1RM values here are the thing that matter most. So these values for these individual exercises are the thing that matter most. And those power bars are just a guide for me to try to figure, am I moving the weight concentrically fast enough? I want to move the weight very, very fast on the concentric and very slow on the eccentric. So I do want those power bars to be fairly high. The faster and with the faster and with the most force you can use on the concentric will get those power bars to be higher. And you want them to be somewhat even. It really matters if you're using the handles and the bars are all over the place, not even. Then I'm trying to adjust to get my weaker side to match my stronger side on the power bar. So those bars are important, but they're just not that relevant as long as they're okay-ish. Also if they flag and they're way below 50% for multiple reps, which would happen on the tonal, has not happened on this yet, but I imagine it will eventually happen where I run into failure cases and I'm just not strong enough to lift the weight on that day. What happens is if I'm getting sub 50% on those for multiple exercises in a row, I end the workout and call it. Like that's what ends up happening. If I'm unable to maintain a decent enough strength curve on the individual exercises, I just call the workout there. And that's just some of the tips for the way I do things. I'm not saying it's the best way. I'm saying it's the way that has kept me with no major injuries for quite a period of time. I after trying the Smart Assists, I will say I see a lot of benefit in Smart Assist 2. I'm not turning it on, and that's because it has to be turned on, I'm pretty sure, at a per exercise level. Actually, let me double check that. If I turn this on, so if I turn on Assist 2, and I go in here, this should be easy enough to actually test. I only have to do 1 or 2 exercises. Let me try it for you real quick because I'm interested myself. I'm imagining it will actually stay on. Unlike the eccentric mode, where when I adjusted the eccentric mode toggle, I had to adjust it per exercise. I imagine this is actually per workout. So if I go in here, turn on Assist 2, and thankfully these are warm-up sets, so I'm in my actual workout here. Hopefully this does not adjust my 1RM or anything like that. I don't think it will. It didn't look like it did before. Even though you're failing in the middle of your reps, it's not adjusting your 1RM down. The goal is to have it not adjust that down. So if I go in here and I do I'm just going to try to do this as quickly as possible to get through it. So there's no proper form on these. This is just to get through these and see if assist mode 2 stays on. I'm assuming it will. So we're here, we go here, we hit skip, assist mode 2 stayed on there. I'm assuming it will stay on here too. After this, I'm assuming it'll stay on, so it's per workout. So we're going in here, we're doing another warm-up set. You can see this time they shot him from the side. Skip, yes, assist mode 2 stayed on. Now let me end this real quick. End the workout, and then I'm gonna go back into the same workout. And I know this sounds weird, but what I'm gonna do is go back into this. And this was kneeling, yes, this is the one with kneeling single arm. Hit start. And yes, the assist mode got turned back off. Meaning every time you go into one of these workouts, you have to turn it back on. It doesn't stay on. Unlike the eccentric, which stays at the setting that I kept it at, this actually turns itself back off. I don't know if there's a setting to actually have it always be on. I don't think there is. Let me see. Would not be there. It would be no, it's not in here. Standby training. I do not see a setting for that. If anyone knows, they can leave a comment down below. But I do not think there is a setting. If I go back in here and start this one, you know what I bet? It might be. Give me one more second. I have a theory. If I go here, I'm trying to see if there's anything in the workout itself. Sequence will not give it to me. No, there's nothing in here to have it automatically turn that on from what I can see. So yeah, you would have to go in every time you start one of these and turn that back on. So this assist mode would have to be turned to assist 2 every time. Unlike the eccentric mode where it keeps it and remembers it. So just be aware, oh sorry, it's flipping the screen upside down. So just be aware that if you're in here and you want assist mode 2 to be on, you're gonna have to turn it on. And I don't think it's a bad thing to use assist mode 2, at least. I think it's an extra safety feature that could be beneficial. And if you want to do drop sets, for sure, assist mode 2 is the way to go. That is the vastly superior way to do drop sets on this machine, to customizing the weight and using the dial on the ring. It will be automatic. It seems to give me a pretty good workout. That's for sure, trying it last night and this morning. So yeah, that's my conclusion on that. In terms of safety features, this thing has so many. In my opinion, it's so much safer than free weights. But like anything, I mean, this is an exercise tool. Exercise is not without risks. You know, any exercise, you could blow out your knee running. You can, you know, I've beaten my body up more running than, well, I don't know which one's worse, running or jiu-jitsu. Knees and ankles versus fingers and toes, right? I don't know. You know, I guess in my opinion, I'd rather break a finger, which has happened a couple times. I've got 3 broken fingers now. Three pretty severely damaged fingers that have the middle knuckle kind of permanently looking different than the other ones. But I would much rather have that than the knee repair that I had and the Achilles issues, because it sucks whenever you're walking and hobbling. So it's kind of like pick your poison in terms of injury risk. With something like the Speediance or the Tonal, any of these digital weight machines, I feel like they're far safer than free weights, especially, I mean, in the case where you don't have a spotter. Yes, if you have 2 spotters, then you are going to be safer with free weights than a digital cable machine, because you have 4 additional eyes on you at every given time. So as long as your spotters are somewhat competent, yes, of course you're going to be safer in that scenario. Because when I'm using this machine or when I was using free weights, I had no one. And in that case, this has so many additional safety features that I covered earlier on. Again, facing the machine so you can turn it off, bringing you to the attachment, not the attachment to you. Making sure you have either the ring or the handles to where you can turn it off a second way. Obviously, I have it set so that unlimited mode is on, and so these settings actually matter, right? So go into training preferences, these matter. I have smart load for the load off method, and then I have it set so that the unlimited set is set to on, so that it gives me that extra second. So smart load's turning off the weight, I believe, when I'm at the end of my set, but I want it to give me a pause and give me time to try to eke out more reps. That's what the unlimited set is doing. So I only have a couple seconds at the end of my set to start hitting those extra reps. So what happens is I finish my set, and that pause that would happen that caused the weight to drop in Smart Assist 2, that pause would cause it to turn it off. I would have to go with my next rep, which was the same way Tonal is. Like, Tonal would actually turn it off in the middle of your set. If you get to 15 and you don't lift that weight, Tonal just turns the thing off on you. It's like, nope, you got to 15, you only hit 15, and then it would lower your 1 rep max. It wouldn't give you the shot to hold it there for a period of time and try one more rep later. So that's my conclusion on this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Put a comment down below if there's anything else you'd like to see. I'm probably going to continue on videos on the Speediance for the near future, because there's so many questions and I'm learning new things about the machine every day. By the way, I just completed the Canyon Quest, so I was pretty excited about that. I got gold on the Canyon Quest, which was actually a little bit of a struggle, just because I was still moving this thing up into my office during the quest. So it was still, and I obviously train jiu-jitsu and I do a bunch of other things. So it was a little bit of a struggle to actually hit that, 200,000 pounds. But I'm excited for these quests. I actually really like this. This is something Tonal didn't have, where they have challenges and prizes and that kind of thing. And to think a machine where they don't charge a membership to use the machine has more rewards for their members than the machine where you're paying over $60 a month for the ability to use the machine you already paid $5,000 for, $5,500, but let's not get technical with the amount that thing costs. That concept that they offer more free things and rewards and awards for people who use their device than the company who's charging you a massive amount of money is mind-boggling to me, and I really appreciate it. So I'm pretty excited to hit 1 million pounds on these devices. That's, right now I'm at 267,000 pounds. So, I hope to hit 1 million pounds within a couple months. So I don't set hard and fast, like I have to hit it by this date. It's going to be based on my other training, based on how much time I can get on the machine, and based upon how life takes me, but I've liked the switchover. I'm actually pleasantly surprised getting my workouts moved over one by one, and then starting to do them, and also having access to more moves. So every now and then I'll add a different move than what was in my original workout, because there's so many more options for movements. And I'm going to probably end up creating new workouts to explore some of the additional movements with the adjustable bench that weren't available on Tonal. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Any questions you have, feel free to put a comment down below, and I'll try to answer them.